Hello, everyone. Welcome to day number 4 of the American Cup 2022. Today, we will be featuring the young sensation, 12-year-old Alice Lee. This girl never fails to impress. She is so fearless. And at a very young age, she's just so amazing. Yeah. She won her match against woman grandmaster Tatev Abrahamyan by a score of 2-0. Imagine that, beating the more experienced Abrahamyan 2-0. Wow, that's what a feat, yeah. Oh, that was a beauty to behold. Let's check it out. Okay. In the second game, let's look at the second game because I was so amazed about this game. I was watching it till the very end. That Rook takes e2 here was just. I was jumping here. Okay, it started with e4. She went for c5 for a Sicilian. Knight into f3, knight c6. d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6. Knight c3, e5. Knight db5, d6. All right, bishop g5. We have the pelican. a6, knight into a3, b5. Okay, we have the combination of the Pelican Sveshnikov variation. Okay, the late Evgeny Sveshnikov. Bishop into e7. Bishop takes f6. Okay, another line here after b5. White could also go for bishop takes f6. Now, black is forced to capture with the g, because if you capture, for example, with the queen, this is a mistake. Now, white goes knight e5. If you move back to d8 to control the c7 square, white has this bishop takes b5. You take on b5, knight takes b5, threatening knight c7, double attack on the rook. If let's say you go queen a5, just c3. Now it's hard to deal with this knight c7 threat. Yeah. Okay, you can go rook a7. Maybe it takes an a7. It takes a7. And look at this, the outside pass pawn a4. This is winning for white. Yeah. Strong knight on d5, bad king. This 2 pawns, just b4, b5, a5. So you have to be careful with this Sveshnikov. In this line, white went for knight d5, bishop e7. Okay, nothing much here. Takes. No tricks, by the way, in this line. The tricky line is bishop takes f6. This is the tricky line. Actually, it's nicer. Yeah, okay. You go for g takes f6, knight into d5, black goes f5. Okay, let's say e takes f5, bishop takes f5, c3, bishop g7. Yeah, let's just check at the line. Knight c2 cancels. You go bishop to d3, or you can also, you can go bishop to d3, exchange here. Yes. You can also go bishop e2, castle queen side. Bishop e6 cancels. King goes to h8, a4. Right. Takes an a4. Knight goes to e3. Okay. These are just the main ideas of the Sveshnikov. So going back, white here went for knight e5, bishop into e7, takes an f6, c4. Okay, b4, knight into c2. White has the control of the d5 square with this knight going to e3 at the moment. Knight is also attacking the b4 pawn, but black ignores it, castles. Now, if let's say white captures on b4, it's also possible. Takes on b4, queen to b6 with a pin on b2, knight d5, queen takes b2, bishop e2, no checks. Yeah, no checks because of the knight. And more or less equal. Okay. Black can keep his two bishops with bishop d8 and then castle queenside. Yeah. Okay, after knight c2, black castle, Alice castle, queen into f3, bishop g5. Right, the main point of queen f3 is to capture an f6, takes and takes, and black gets a double pawn on f6 and f7. So bishop g5, h4, bishop into h6. Okay, it's not possible to take that pawn on h4. This is a decoy. This queen h5. Look at the rule. Rook and queen comes into play. h7 is going to be a checkmate. Yes. If you protect, let's say, for example, you protect it with g5 and now g3, game over. You lose the bishop, you lose the game. So force bishop h6, g4, threatening g5. Normally, bishop goes to f4, but with knight on d5, you cannot go to f4 because the knight will just take the bishop. So black went for f6, protecting g5. Rook into g1, queen a5, interesting. Okay, better here probably is bishop e6, maybe bishop to d3, and then rook into a7. There's a game by Shurov here. So white cannot castle. He might go for rook to d1, for example. And only then you go queen a5. Okay, the main point of rook a7 is queen a5 goes to c5, is that there will be no knight c7 after you put that queen on c5. Yeah, double attack on the rook on a8 and e6. But anyways, it will just be transposed though. Queen a5, b3, queen c5. Bishop e2, rook a7. You cannot go bishop e6 here. Huh? There's knight c7, double attack on a8 and e6. So rook a7 first. g5 is not possible because there's a discovered attack on the queen f3. So queen goes to g3, all right, g6. Okay, so now if white goes g5, the bishop can go back to g7. Rook into d1, bishop e6 finally. With the rook on a7, it controls c7. Rook into h1, knight e4. Okay, this is actually a mistake. Here, black may have played, maybe she should have played rook a f7. I guess white is threatening to go h5 here. Now, for example, you go g5, at least the bishop on a6 is restricted, and it's where are you going to put that bishop? Yeah, with the pawn on d6, pawn on f6, it's hard to find a line for that bishop. Although it will be possible to take on h5, rook takes h5 and bishop g5. But here white can continue with king f1, king g2, and maybe rook dh1. All right, let's go to knight d4. Knight takes d4, e takes d4. This is actually good for white. But she overpressed. Knight takes f6, not the best move in the game. h5 is much better. Again, the main point of h5 is g5. The bishop is dead on h6. Okay, it can go back to g7, but there's no open line. Yeah, closing the line for the bishop. Because now if black captures the pawn, rook takes h5, there's a big difference. Without the pawn on e5, you go to g5, now f4. Yep. Bishop is trapped. The bishop goes back to g7, for example. This knight goes to f4, threatening the bishop on e6. You move back to f7, your queen is dead. Yep. So queen has to go back to c8, protect that bishop, takes, queen takes e6. And now this move c5 comes, or maybe just king f1 first. The main point is that if you play queen takes e4, there's bishop d3, no pin, attacking h7, and some discovered attack. Okay, but she went for knight takes f6, playable, but not the best. Takes on g5, rook f8, giving black some chances with an open f-file. Yeah, attack on the weakest point on f2. White goes for f4, rook into e7. Now it's a bit scary with that centralized king on e1. Rook into h4, bishop d7, maybe bishop ch was much better. Okay, black's threat is bishop c6. I go for bishop d7, but I like bishop c8. At least open this line for the queen, yeah, for the queen to help on the king side. e4 is a target, by the way. Bishop d7, queen goes to h2. All right, bishop into c6, attacking e4, f5. And this young girl is so fearless. It's just so nice to watch this young players playing. Sometimes they're better to watch than the elite, yeah, because the elite, you see so many draws and it's just so boring. No excitement, while these young players are very brave. Look at this, rook takes e4. She didn't even defend the pawn on h7. Yeah? She was like, okay, let's just go for rook takes e4. Yeah. That rook on e7 was protecting h7, and she ignored that threat. In the game, white went for takes on g6. Let's take a look at rook takes h7, because this is the main line, yeah, the most complicated line, and probably will give white a little bit of a chance, because black has to find rook takes f5, not queen takes f5. The queen takes f5 loses to rook h8. If you go king f7 takes, we have a double attack on the king and the bishop on c6. I'm not so sure if Alice calculated rook takes f5 here. She might go queen takes f5. Yeah? Rook takes f5 is the best way to go. If rook h8, king into f7, queen h7, king goes to e6. Yeah? Let's say you capture on g6, just king e7. The king is actually safe, amazingly safe. Yeah? If you check, for example, rook h7, this king goes d8. Bishop and rook protecting the important e8 square. The queen protects f5. Okay, let's give her the benefit of doubts. Maybe she calculated after rook takes a4. The rook takes f5 is also one of her calculations. Well, she's a very talented girl. Now white went for f takes g6. And this was the moment where I was jumping on my seat after like 3 to 5 minutes of thought. Alice went for rook takes e2. Let's look at the situation before rook takes e2. Okay, she won the first game convincingly. So what she needs in the second game is just a draw. Yeah. She doesn't need to complicate things, but she went for it. Yeah. She went for rook takes e2. That is just different. This girl is in a different league. She imagine 12-year-old, so mature, so fearless over the board. Woohoo! I'll give a clap for that one, yeah? 5 claps. Abrahamyan went for king takes e2. Okay, queen takes e2 here loses. Rook e8 with the bishop protecting the rook. Pin white loses the queen. Black has an extra bishop with the queen. Queen for 2 rooks, an extra bishop is too much for black. Sorry, it's too much for white. So you went for king takes e2. Bishop f3. King e1, rook e8. Although not precise with rook e8, black could have captured with queen takes g5 here. And wins on the spot. Because let's say pawn takes pawn, this king h8, and it's hard to defend the threat. Queen e3. And mate is coming up next. She went for rook e8. Here, white played king d2. It was still possible for white to go king f1, but anyways, black has already has the draw with bishop e2, and the match here. If let's say queen takes e2, rook takes into e2, king takes e2, black could go perpetual with queen e5 check here. Or maybe you can still try to win the game. But white went for queen d2. There's rook e2 check. Queen takes e2. And the last move, queen takes g5 check. That's wins the queen. Rook is under attack. Extra bishop. The bishop will be attacking the rook on d1. Wow. What a way to end the match against the more experienced woman grandmaster, Tatev Abrahamyan. It's 2-0 for Alice, the 12-year-old Alice. What a young girl. We expect more from this girl in the days or years to come. Yeah. We'll keep an eye on this young, talented girl. All right, let's just show you what happened in round number 1, a brief check of round number 1. In round number 1, Abrahamyan went for bishop takes h3 here. It wasn't well calculated. And Alice just took the bishop and calmly defended her king with bishop f1, bishop into g2, rook into d2, queen h4, knight e5. Here, white could have also captured e4 and still wins, because if knight takes e4, this queen takes. Yes, it's going to be made on the back rank with rook c8. But anyways, knight e5 was also winning. Knight into h5, knight f4. The knight joins the defense, protecting h3 and g2. Rook into c6, just take. King g1, queen to d7, attacking the rook. After rook f8, queen g4. No more attack for black. Black resigned. This was round number 1. And then the decisive round number 2. So Alice goes on to the finals of the American Cup 2022. So that's about it. Congratulations to Alice Lee, the young sensation, for beating Tatev Abrahamyan 2-0. All right, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting our channel, Charles Max Chess and Charles Max Entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. This is Coach Oliver. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.